my method is I provide the quality and, more importantly, to be honest, Paul, the authenticity, right? If it's me and then I tell the robot, hey, make sure you keep this tone that I'm sharing with you, that I'm speaking into this microphone, keep that, you know what I mean? And that's a big part of my work is encouraging people, teaching people to show up as their authentic self in these digital spaces, so that way they can build those intentional human connections.
Welcome back to the Business Behind Your Business podcast. Look, you cannot escape hearing these days that you need to understand the algorithm. You need to know what the algorithm is doing. If you don't, then you're going to miss out. But I think in focusing on the algorithm and trying to, create our message and deliver our message so that the algorithm is met, we're missing something. We're certainly missing something. And it's certainly that human connection we seem to be forgetting. We seem to be writing messaging for the algorithm and forgetting about who our real audience is, who the people we really want to get our message to, and that's that human connection that we're missing. So how do we keep that human connection in a very digital world that we're now immersed in, and there's no going back from this digital world, but how do we maintain that human presence? So our guest today, Nathaniel, he's a TEDx speaker, author, social media strategist. He's been helping business leaders reconnect with their audience without losing their human voice. And look, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by the trends and the social trends and felt disconnected yourself, this is the episode for you. You need to keep listening to this, because we're going to come and hear why this human connection is so important for clarity, bringing back purpose and authenticity into your messaging. And look, I'm not going to waste any more time. Robin, welcome to the Business Behind Your Business.
Paul, thank you so much. It's an absolute honor to be here, ready to connect, provide some value, and have a nice human connection.
Absolutely. I'm loving this. Already we've connected. We've shared some stories off air. I'm excited now. You've been heavily involved in digital, the digital area, helping entrepreneurs and business owners. You've developed your own method, which we'll delve into, the Sync method, which you've created. Your background is quite extensive. You've been with some big organizations, or you've helped some big organizations like NBC, Universal, Diesel, TEDx. You've been involved in a number of award-winning projects. And look, you do bring that creativity. I've seen your content. There's certainly a creativity, some strategy, some spark, and some human connection there. Why are we at risk of losing this human connection, and why is it so important when we're told we should be embracing AI to be more efficient?
That's a good one. We're coming in hot, Paul. I love it. So I'll start by saying that I'm a huge AI user, right? So I think sometimes because of my book, sometimes because of my content, folks believe like I'm against AI. I'm not anti-AI, but I am all the way 100% pro-human. With that said, in this era of AI rising at the rapid pace, right? It's like literally overnight in the last couple of years, our world has changed. Education has changed. Business has changed. There's so much happening behind the scenes that's developing, coming down the line, that will continue to transform the digital and human landscape. Now, in terms of human connection and how AI can maybe negatively impact it, think about it like this. You ever go to one of those fairs, like a local fair, everyone has a table, people are walking around going to connect. At some of those fairs, you'll find a person who has a hand-woven basket, for example, and there's going to be a tag on it that says handcrafted. We're heading to an era now where our digital content will, and mark my words, will be stamped with an approval of human made, 100% human produced, not created by a robot. Now, I think where we are now, that the value of the human touch is not as high as it's going to be. I think there's going to be a shift where, as more of this, what we're calling AI sludge, I'm sure you've heard that term or seen that on the internet, where it's just like, for example, you pull up to your LinkedIn inbox and somebody sent you a connection request. You open the connection request, immediately you get a message, and the message says something like this: Paul, I am excited to connect with you. I see you worked at X, Y, and Z. That is amazing. Would you like to jump on a 15-minute call? Whoa. So slow down. The robotics are too heavy. So with that being said, I believe that it is risky, but if people who are pro-human like I am stand up and continue to push that agenda forward to utilize the tools, but make sure that we keep that human touch, we will not stray too far from what the goal is, which is to live a positive and productive life in this wild, wild world.
Mm. Look, I think one of the things you just touched on there is we create a lot of content using AI, we create in volume and bulk. But as a recipient reading those messages, we're getting very, I guess, tired and turned off by the content being created. And we've got our skeptic radar on and thinking, well, hang on, you're not actually a real person trying to connect with me. You're a tool. I want to connect with a real person, so I'm just going to disregard you, and maybe I'll just switch off completely because I want that human touch.
Yep. And I think where we are now, Paul, is that folks are even, I would say, AI hunters. We have folks I spend a little bit of time on all social media platforms because of the nature of my work, right? But specifically on TikTok, there's an entire movement of authors, writers, editors, publishers who are literally pulling out the Sherlock Holmes magnifying glass to find the AI. So one thing that comes up a lot is the use of M dashes. They say, if there are M dashes in your content, it's most likely AI. Now, there's a whole nother section of writers and publishers who are like, dude, I love M dashes. I'm not going to stop using M dashes because you're going to market as AI. With that said, I believe because of the speed of this revolution of artificial intelligence, specifically for those large language models like the chat GPTs, Claude, Perplexity, those type of platforms, that people are super sensitive to it. That we will hit a point where it's normal, and the type of content that is created, you'll be able to tell who's putting the effort to do the editing, because that's where the magic happens, is in the edit.
Yeah. I was a bit, concerned one time when I learned that you can actually use an AI tool to tell you how much AI content you've got in your content that you've created and how human it is. But I think you need to go beyond that. And you mentioned a couple of telltale signs there. I think there's going to be even more. But is there a way that we can communicate more of that it is content created by a real human, and what are some of the ways that we can demonstrate that through our content?
I think the easiest way is to just write your content and then use AI to maybe edit it for you or to correct it for you. So one thing that I do actively is I use the voice features on AI platforms like ChatGPT and Perplexity. So I just talk my piece out, and then I'll ask them, hey, can you just clean up any grammar mistakes and make sure that the formatting is right? So that's the easiest way for me, is to just talk it out. It saves me time. So that part about being efficient and optimizing your time and increasing your output, I'm still hitting that mark, but I'm not losing my voice literally because I'm using my voice, right? So I think that's one easy hack. I think on the other side of it, if you're using AI to create, I would start with using it as a foundation for outlines, for brainstorming, things of that nature, and then go and write out the prompt, with a lot of care. I think what happens, because it's so easy, you can give one simple sentence to a large language model, and it'll pump out 20 pieces of content for you. But if you give specific instructions with a long prompt and essentially give them your rough draft and then just tell them what you want, tell the robot what you want it to do, then I believe it'll help to maintain some of that human voice. But then always, before you put anything out, give it comb it over with a fine-tuned comb to make sure that you clean it up and present it the way that you speak and the way that you communicate.
Yeah. So a couple of key points there that you've mentioned is and I think we're getting this in the wrong order. And we listen to a lot of people who are telling us how we should be using AI and ChatGPT and the different models. Y- The approach you're suggesting is start with your voice, start with your content, and then use the tool to clean it up. Whereas a lot of people are going, let's start with the AI tool, get the ideas, and then we try and put our voice to it. I actually find that trying to put my voice to something that somebody else has created is a lot harder than what you've suggested of starting with me, starting with my voice, and then using something to clean it up.
Yep, yep. You got it. And again, I wouldn't knock anyone who's, you know, content creation process, whether it's for writing or scripting videos, if they were leaning on the machines to help them come up with ideas, there's nothing wrong with that. I think what happens though when you do that is that you're counting on them to provide the quality, where my method is I provide the quality and, more importantly, to be honest, Paul, the authenticity, right? If it's me and then I tell the robot, hey, make sure you keep this tone that I'm sharing with you, that I'm speaking into this microphone, keep that, you know what I mean? And that's a big part of my work is encouraging people, teaching people to show up as their authentic self in these digital spaces, so that way they can build those intentional human connections.
Yeah. So you mentioned the authentic self, and we've had a few conversations on the podcast recently where surprisingly, the message, or in some cases, surprisingly, the message has come out that the most effective content is where they've been most authentic. Um, I'll go back to our conversation with Stephen Ridley, who has got some amazing following on social media. But when we were discussing how he was so successful, he actually regretted a lot of the content or some of the content that he'd put out on social media that went viral, and he regretted it because it wasn't the message that he wanted to actually show. And he said that some of the most authentic and genuine content was some of the most engaged content and the stuff that he was actually proud of, as opposed to some of the other stuff which had some unintended consequences which weren't very pleasant. But I'm hearing that need for authenticity, and we're saying here, I guess that connection is probably better than volume. Would that be your observation?
In some cases, I have when you said that, when you shared that story from one of your guests, I have a similar experience. So in 2020, when TikTok was really at the height of its virality, right? Like people were going viral like it was no problem, right? So I got on the platform reluctantly. I had a friend, his name is Chris. He has a company called Wave Formation, I believe. And we were in some kind of like mastermind group talking, and he was like, dude, you better get on TikTok like now. So I went, created a couple of videos, fell in love with it. Videos did okay, and then I had a couple of them go viral. Two of the videos in particular, I think total views between the two videos were like 5 million views, and my account blew up really fast. Now, because those videos were me like doing some reaction to some other video, not anything that was really in line with my genuine authentic self or my business or what I was really doing. It was just me creating. The videos got a lot of views, but they didn't yield any results for my business or for what I was working on, any of my projects, just a bunch of vanity metrics. Fast forward to a year later, I literally pull out the phone, shoot a video about one of my frameworks, put it up on social media, on Facebook specifically. It had about 350 views. Like, I didn't think anything of it. From that video, I got a message which led to a call, which led to a client. And the client, obviously, it brought revenue into our business. It was a great opportunity. So the point is, people getting caught up in like, oh, like how big is the video? How many views? In my book, I have a whole chapter dedicated to reevaluating metrics and why businesses should really adjust their lens in this era around what a successful, key performance metric is, and what it means to their business.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, you just mentioned the book. So let's have a closer look at why you wrote the book and how it's going to really help. So, Social Media Sync, a framework for intentional human connection in the AI era. I think, is that based on the methodology that you've come up with that's helping us maintain that human connection?
Yes. So the sync method started when I did my TEDx talk in 2024. So I shared a bunch of personal stories, and then at the end of the talk, I gave this framework that at the time was just a part of my talk. It wasn't my book. It was just a part of my talk. And then fast forward, I did an interview with a gentleman named David Eady, really just brilliant man. And I just wasn't expecting it. I just showed up for an interview thinking I was going to talk about my TED talk, talk about the stuff I was working on. And this gentleman went so deep, Paul. He had me tearing up. He had me like tears welling up in my eyes, some of the questions he was asking about my past, the things that I shared. And when I got off the pod, right then I was like, that's the book. The book is the sync method. So I went to work. I had a bunch of scattered thoughts before that, but after that, I just put it all together, and that's what brought us to this point of creating the sync method.
Mm. So bringing all that personal experience in, obviously, look, you've got that experience in digital marketing. You've been involved in the industry for many, many years before AI became talked about. So you've got a lot of experience in there, a lot of, and I'm guessing there's, as well as the success, you touched on a few of the, I won't call them failures because they still went viral, but there's probably some work in there that didn't reap the results that you would have hoped for at the time. A lot of experience poured into that. Tested methodologies. I'm guessing that you've tested that, even though you didn't actually probably have a name on the framework, you were probably working through that framework for many, many years.
Absolutely. And I think one cool thing about writing a book is that I kind of go into the kitchen and just bring all my ingredients in and cook stuff up each chapter. So that was really fun because there are also like sub frameworks that I created in the process of writing it. But for the sync method, if it's okay, I'll just give a quick and dirty breakdown of it.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
so it's an acronym, and S is for simple. Basically, teaching that when we're working online, trying to create content or trying to build a brand, messaging, grow a movement or organization, that simplifying your message is the key to really getting people to buy in and also receive that message. And I challenge people in the book to, when you're writing that post, are there sentences and words that you can remove to make it easier to digest? And one of the greatest compliments I've ever received in my career, Paul, I was on an interview with a podcast episode with a lady named Chris Bradley. She's a musician who has like a coaching community, amazing woman. And she said something to me that stayed with me to this day. She said, Robin, you just have a way of making things so simple and easy to understand. For me, that makes me feel better than someone saying, "Oh my God, the editing on that was so amazing. Like, how did you do that trick?" Like, nah, like I want people to get the message and for it to have impact. Why? It's for yield. Yield to your intentions. Before you create anything online, before you have any kind of interaction online, whether it's a DM, a post, a comment, think about how you want the audience to feel, how you want them to view the content. Just be super intentional. Far too often we're just like checking a box essentially. Like, hey, we got an event on Wednesday. Let's do a social media post, put it out. Bye. Like, let's go beyond that and think about the intention. N is for natural. We talked a little bit about it earlier, but really when you step into a space, most people who are online, especially on platforms like LinkedIn, business owners, entrepreneurs, sometimes they bring that corporate speak with them. They'll come into the social media space or the online space with a very button-up version of themselves. When they're kicking it with a client that they love or with, a business partner that they've worked with for years, they're talking to them like they're talking to their best friend. So what I would encourage folks to do, depending on your industry, obviously, there's some industries that you have to keep it buttoned up. But in most cases, when we're talking about small businesses, entrepreneurs, or people who are trying to build an authentic reputation online, create for people like you're writing for your best friend. And the last step, C, is for change it up. Change it up is simply trying different stuff, man. Like, don't get so caught up in that tunnel vision of we have to create this graphic, we'll create it on Canva, schedule everything out for the next 30 days, done, moving on. Like, stop for a minute, hire a strategist, bring someone in to assess, give you some input, or find somebody on your team who has some potential and give them ownership of trying and testing some new things out. So change it up is really just making sure we try different things and then rinse and repeat.
That's I'm going to say a very simple framework there, which is I guess the objective there. I think we overcomplicate so much of our strategy and our messaging, but just going back to that, keeping it very simple. Business owners, so busy, so many hats, so much messaging, so many things to do. And I think what we've done is and we've talked about using AI, but in that maintaining human connection, we often use AI to create more busyness for ourselves. But if we just push that to one side and just come back to what exactly is the message simply, what's the simple purpose of what we're trying to achieve, I think we can cut through a lot of the noise.
Yeah, we're making it busy for ourselves. It's almost like you're inflicting pain on yourself. I think there's this whole, and I'll say this, Paul, in the industry, I'm a bit radical. Like, I've been doing this for 20 years. There's not many people in the industry that can say they've been doing social media strategy since MySpace. You know what I mean? I was like helping people book tours in Europe, musicians, using MySpace. I didn't know that I was a social media strategist. I didn't know that I was like becoming a pioneer in this space, right? But now looking back at my career, I know that that was all to bring me here. With that said, the busy work is unnecessary, right? You can do an audit to identify where your audience is, and you can pour into them there. If you don't have an audience, that's a good problem, because we have 5.3 billion people are active social media users worldwide. That's 64.7% of the world's population. Let that sink in. Like, there's so much opportunity, whether it's your business, your nonprofit, your mission, your kids' basketball team, whatever it is that you're trying to develop some kind of buzz around and bring and attract the right people to support, there's just limitless reach if you really leverage authenticity in the digital space.
There's so much opportunity there. And I think you mentioned not actually having an audience at the moment is an opportunity. Do you think that we perhaps have tried to reach out without having taken that first step of actually identifying who we're actually wanting to talk to? That we're just trying to get content out, thinking that we have to go viral, and the most numbers that we get, we've won. Well, we talked about vanity metrics as well, but are we missing? Are we Well, I think we're overcomplicating our messaging by choosing the wrong audience.
That's good. That's good, Paul. And I talk about this a lot. I spent a short period of time in my career at vidIQ, which is one of the top YouTube softwares. I was one of their founding creator coaches. So I was one of the first, I think, 23 coaches that they hired to coach YouTube creators, which was an absolute dream. I really enjoyed my time there and still have a lot of rich relationships with some of my coworkers, former coworkers, I should say. And one thing that I find, with my experience being there at vidIQ is being in the mix of what's new and what's happening on social, online. And honestly, man, it's like people just have trouble with being themselves. You know what I mean? And I think that showing up as who you believe you need to be. I want to show up like Mr. Beast. I want to show up like Gary Vaynerchuk. I want to show up like whoever's the most popular person in your niche or space, that it kind of just limits people from reaching their maximum potential when it comes to online messaging.
So the framework that you've outlined for us today, the sync method, simple, yield, natural, and C
Change
is
it up.
called. Change it up. I can't read my own writing as I'm writing this down, but it's a very clear method. How can our listeners delve into this more? How can they get a hold of the book? Where should they go to get started with the sync method?
Thank you for that, Paul. I think the best thing to do is allow me to give them a gift, if that's okay. Is it okay if I give your audience a gift?
Absolutely.
Awesome. If you visit landthetalk.com, what I'll do is I'll send you 2 free ebooks that I have, as well as a checklist, all social media related, as well as a preview to my book. So I'll give you opportunity to read the intro, to read the foreword, to read the first chapter, see what you think. All of the information on how you want to purchase the book is on that document. And also, to get in contact with me, the easiest way is once you receive that welcome email after joining my list, going to landthetalk.com, then you just reply to me. I respond to all of my emails. So I'll be the person that will be on the other end of that digital/human connection.
Fantastic. So we'll put the links to landthetalk.com and the contact details in the show notes, and also on the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website, where all our past episodes are also there for you to check out. Great resource. Robin's been very generous in providing that to us. So I encourage you to go and get that checklist and the introductory, I guess the preview to the book at landthetalk.com. Robin, now you've got a couple of podcasts as well, and I do want to mention them because I'm sure there's some great content in those. There's 2 podcasts particularly that you're involved with. You want to share a little bit about them?
Absolutely. If anyone is interested in more content around social media, around public speaking, I have a show called Land the Talk, where I bring TEDx speakers on. I bring experts in their field onto the show, and I also do a bunch of solo episodes where I go over social media strategy, human connection, all of that good stuff that my work is rooted in. So that's Land the Talk. And my other podcast is totally on the other side of the spectrum. It's called Believe in Fantasy. It's a fantasy basketball podcast. I'm a huge NBA fan. If you're watching a video of the episode, you can see that. And that show came about in 2021, right after I lost my brother, my older brother, Kevin, God rest his soul. And I was just in a really dark and sad place. And before Kevin passed away, Paul, me and him would talk on the phone about him starting a gaming channel. So I was like giving him all of my social media tips and branding, and we're like planning it out. And when he passed, this idea that I had to start this fantasy basketball channel really came to life. And I used it as just a form of therapy, really, and an escape and a healing mechanism. And today, it's grown a bunch. I think we have 12,000 followers on YouTube, 12K on TikTok, 3,000 people on our mailing list. It's just grown into this amazing community built on shared interest, but in memory of my brother, Kevin.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great story. And sorry to hear about your loss, but great way to, I guess, share the memory of him and what was important in that relationship you had with him. Very, very natural, very authentic. Love that message. Look, is there one thing that we should get started with? Well, obviously, we want people to go and check out landthetalk.com. But what's that one thing that we should remember when we're thinking about our I guess, reintroducing that human connection into our marketing and our social content?
I'm all about keeping it simple, right? And this is what I have for you. Don't overthink this. It's not like a really extreme math equation. It's as simple as bringing your people to the table if you're a business owner and you have a team, assessing the bandwidth of the team, empowering someone to take lead, do some market research, identify your ideal audience if you haven't done that. That's huge. I know we talked about that slightly a little bit earlier on. That's something that I think when I was talking about vidIQ, I might have forgot to come back around to that. If it's okay, Paul, I can
Yeah,
come
yeah,
back around to it right now.
yeah.
I think in the space, especially with small businesses and people who are trying to grow, that they're so busy trying to sell to everybody that they end up selling to nobody. And I think taking time, I'm talking days, maybe weeks, to really take a look at who that ideal audience member is, who is that ideal client, what is that ideal client profile, however you frame it, like find out who the person is. There are large companies that have different sets of ideal customer profiles that they're talking to. Just pick one. Don't overthink it. Give the person a name, and here's the ninja trick. Stop being so focused on the demographics and really lock in on the psychographics. And I think that's where, especially new business owners, don't dig into that. They go into like, okay, so Jane is 35. She lives in, Sydney. She has 2 kids, as opposed to Jane believes in blank. Jane loves blank. This irritates Jane. And I think once you can do that, don't overthink it, empower your team, you'll start rolling and you'll see the results.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Robin, Nathaniel shared some great tips with us today, and really, really grateful for what he has shared. Don't leave it there. Go check out the information on landthetalk.com. Robin, thank you so much for helping us to find a very simple way to reintroduce or reconnect our human side into all that we're doing, particularly around marketing and content creation. So thank you for joining us on The Business Behind Your Business.
Paul, you're doing amazing work. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your light.